Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Okay, we're back, and as you know, we're only a couple of days away from the Oregon primary, and you probably have your ballots, and hopefully you've already marked them and sent them in, but if you haven't, here's another mark you may want to consider. Delighted to have with us today Duane Stark. Duane is a pastor of local and global outreach at River Valley Community Church in Grants Pass. He's running for House District number 4. Now that's the House seat that's currently held by Dennis Richardson, who is running for governor. So win or lose, that seat becomes available, and Duane has now stepped up to run. So Duane, good to see you. By the way, thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
You know, running for public office ain't for sissies.
That's what I hear.
Well, why are you doing this? What you're thinking?
You know, really, we learn so much from our children, and for me, so much of life's lessons come from my kids, and I have 5 kids in the home right now.
Wow.
But my son, Peyton, last year, we homeschooled, and we took him to this nursing home, and the children were reading to all the seniors there, and there was this one woman sitting over by the door, on the floor, and it was kind of a sad scene. She was drooling. It was one of these horrific, you don't know what's going on, and the kids don't know, do we look at her or do we not, sort of thing. And so we watched to see what my son would do. And he looked at her, and he went over, and he sat down next to her, and he started reading her a book. And we were so impressed, and I mean, such a proud moment as a parent.
Yeah.
And so we asked him later, we said, Peyton, why did you do that? Well, what was going through your mind? And he says, Dad, I looked at her, and I thought, someone has to do something. Mm. And then he says, if not me, then who?
Wow.
And so that lesson is I've been able to work behind the scenes on things, and I've watched what's going on at our state and federal level in politics. I've encouraged people to run for office, and I'm continuously horrified by what I see. I see overregulation at the state level. I see businesses and local communities just getting choked out because they're not able to do things, and I'm horrified. And it comes a point where you say somebody has to do something.
Right.
And if not me, then who?
Yeah, and who?
So.
Well, thank you for doing it, and it's a big task. But on the other hand, there's some things going on in the state that need to be stopped and turned around. And I guess we could take on all the issues, but the big obviously is covered Oregon. What's your take on this mess?
It's a big mess. It's a big mess, and you know, it's a challenge for. At the state level to figure out what do we do with, you know, Obamacare. I mean, when something's a mandate, there's a mandate, and you have to figure out how to work within that. But cover Oregon, the idea that we have thrown away, depending on who you ask, $300+ million, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And obviously you can hear more from Richardson on all the ins and outs because he's been there all along. But I'm glad it looks like they're finally deciding to you know, cut their losses and move another direction, but it's sad to see how much money we've thrown away.
Would you favor any kind of a refund from somebody? I mean, we're not even going after Oracle. I mean, they're the guys that messed this thing up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when it comes to, you hire someone to do a job, and if they don't do it, what's the deal? Yeah. And so I would favor, you know, let's figure out how do we recoup some of that money and put it somewhere else instead of like, oh, so long. You know, in the business world, you wouldn't do that. You hire a contractor, they get the job done, or they give you the money back to hire another contractor.
Education, big issue, and if you get elected, you'll have to deal with that. And as you know, our son, when he served in the Senate, had a bill every time that came up and never got dealt with. But the year that the House was even Republicans and even Democrats, they decided to fund K through 12 first. Because that's always the political hot potato held at the end of the budget cycle, right, to raise taxes or do something. Where would you be on that issue?
On education, I mean, obviously, public safety, education, these are huge things that we have to have to be successful as communities. My big question is always, where is the money going? You hear Art Robinson over and over talk about $10,000 per student per year is going into our school systems. So you think that's a class of 30 students, that's $300,000 a year going into this. But yet, just last year, I had a group of volunteers out at a school painting a new classroom. And this was a new classroom because another local school had shut down, so they were combining these two elementary schools. And previously, this classroom had always been used as the girls' locker room. And we were discussing how they were going to put a curtain up across so that the kids didn't realize they were going to school in a locker room. Now, that doesn't add up to me. How do we spend $300,000 on that class, but yet the kids are going to class in a locker room? Wow. So something that's of great interest to me is to figure out, where is the money going? Let's take the money that we're spending on it, which is a ton of money, and figure out what we're doing with it, making sure we're using that wisely and well.
Your county, Josephine County, has had some real financial issues. Your police, your sheriff there has been greatly reduced, and there's been talk that the state could maybe come in and oversee some things. We have the same problem on some counties on the coast. Would you be in favor of that?
Of the state coming in? No.
Okay.
One of the things that I think is unique about my role and my current involvement in the community is that previously we've heard all these solutions of let's get more funding here, let's get more funding here. Well, my job as the local and global outreach pastor is to mobilize the local community. And I've seen time and time again where people have stepped up and they were willing to take on, from a nonprofit standpoint, willing to take on these things.
Right.
Like the shelter, the juvenile shelter in Josephine County.
Right.
There's a local nonprofit, a church, Edgewater. Some of the men approached me and said, look, we have the training and the ability to open that thing back up.
Right.
We would pay rent for it.
Wow.
And we would go through any trainings required in order to open up this facility. But there's regulation that keeps it from happening. Right. And so for me, I have grandiose plans of where we could be in 14 to 20 years if I'm in office and we get all the right people in there. But where I can start now as a freshman, a new guy coming in, what are these basic things that, given the current situation, the current economy, that we can chip away at, that just are common sense, and there's regulation keeping us from doing that. And I've talked to people business-wise, nonprofit-wise. It's across the board we have struggles with that.
All right, before we get too far into this conversation, you got a couple events and people who want to catch up with you. One of them is tonight, and this is where Dennis Richardson, who currently holds House District number 4, will be there to meet and greet, and he's already openly endorsed you, but to again endorse you. Where is that going to be?
Tonight it'll be at Dennis Richardson's office in Central Point, which I believe is 55 South 5th Street.
Right,
so
right
lots of 5 at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
so 5 o'clock, 55 South 5th.
Okay, 5 to 6:30 at Dennis Richardson's office in Central Point. Okay. How would you prioritize your concerns in the state?
My concerns, again, of course, the common things as far as education, jobs, those are standard things that are huge priorities. Right. But those are also things that people have been grappling with year in, year out. Right. So my priority of what I want to work on immediately, again, are hearing from the local communities. My district, Josephine and Jackson County, primarily Jackson County, goes all the way out to Eagle Point, okay, is to hear from what is it that's keeping you from flourishing. Right, I hear all the time
regulations.
Right, exactly. But I want specifics because people come and say, well, if the government would stop doing this, then we'll start doing this. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, we are trying to do this as a business. This is how we can make our community better. But this specific regulation right here is getting in the way. And I had a constituent come to me a couple months ago and they said, look, we bid a local job. We're a local company and we bid a local job and we had all the abilities to do it, but there was a bill passed a little while back that got misinterpreted, that cut us out of the loop, and now that job cost the community over $300,000 when it would have cost about $90,000. That's a specific where we can go in and say, this bill has been misinterpreted or has stopped us in this way. Right. Let's change that. So I want to start with the low-hanging, straight up, this is what we can change immediately to make a difference.
We've got to make business easier in Oregon. We got to attract more companies to come here and set up shop.
I agree.
And we just don't seem to be going down that road.
Right. Instead, we're shutting down our mills. We're cutting people out. We're increasing taxes. We're making it harder for business owners. Right. It seems like who would want to do business in Oregon if we keep doing all that?
Yeah. Well, I commend you for doing this. Again, if you want to, how do people get a hold of you if they want to be a part of your campaign and learn more about you?
You can go online at duanestark.org.
Okay.
And you can also, call me.
Good.
541-441-9799. I welcome the calls, and come out and get to know me tonight.
Okay, yeah, that'll be from 5 till 6:30 tonight at Dennis Richardson's office in Central Point, his law office there. You know what's interesting, Dennis is running for governor, and Duane is running for his seat, so it's kind of an interesting combination. You are unopposed in the primary.
Correct.
But you will have an opponent in the general.
Right.
And for those of you who live in parts of Grants Pass and then through Central Point out to Eagle Point, how far north does your district go?
It goes out Applegate, Williams, so the whole district,
Yeah.
Eagle Point, everything between Eagle Point and Grants Pass.
Okay.
So Central Point, White City, we have Williams, Applegate, Rogue River, Weimar,
Okay.
and outskirts of Josephine County.
Okay, well, it's a very important district, so get a hold of them and be a part of that event tonight. All right, so what about as we come back into some of the water needs, and I don't know if your district is affected by water, but we do have some water needs. I don't know, has that come up in your campaign?
This is the first time it's been mentioned in my campaign.
Okay.
And however, I have people who have been talking to me and invited me to some of the meetings to learn more about that.
Okay, because the water is a big thing. And then, of course, we have the GMO thing. How are you sensing this GMO fight? I mean, it seems we got a great community, and it's got these farmers split down the middle. I hope, if any, I don't know how this vote's going to go. I have my own thoughts on it, but I hope we come together when it's all over.
I agree. And the nice thing, last year in the special session, at the state level, they said those decisions have to be made at the state level, with the exception of Jackson County, and somehow it ended up on the ballot in Josephine County anyway.
Right.
The nice thing for me is my job as a representative is to represent my constituents, and both of them are about to let me know how they feel about it. It's going to be on the ballot.
There you go.
So,
we'll find out real quick. Thank you, Duane. Blessings to you. Keep up the good work. And don't forget the meet and greets tonight from 5 to 6:30 at Dennis Richardson's office in Grants Pass. You want to meet up with Dennis and meet up with Duane. Thanks for coming in.
thank you for having me.
We'll be right
Appreciate
back.
it.